Hello, welcome to Miss Peepers Reading Corner. I'm Katrina, aka Miss Peepers. Let's talk about books. Today I've got a couple of topics that we're gonna weave into a single video. First of all, we're doing the overwhelmed tag, which was created by Kathy Tryhard, and I saw it on Sandy Lender's channel, and I will post both of those creators below. Check them both out. I'd also like to talk about a book that I read last year, so before I had a channel, and that is called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski, which definitely fits within this topic of overwhelm. So let's start with the questions, which I will also put in the description below if you want to refer to them, maybe answer them yourself or create your own video. If you do, please tag me because I'd love to see it, or drop your thoughts in the comments below. Question 1, are you feeling overwhelmed? And if so, why? Well, I'm not yet, but the holidays are quickly approaching. It is the beginning of November when I'm filming this, and that is always when I find myself the most busy because work ramps up as people are trying to close out the year. And then also, yes, T'Challa. And then also the holidays. My family celebrates Christmas and also Thanksgiving. It's my birthday was last month, my husband's birthday is this month, my sister's birthday is in December, and my dad's birthday is in January. I also love to decorate and I love to bake, and I'll show some of that on this channel. I'll do a little lifestyle content this year as well. So you can see some of that, but it is very easy for the to-do list to get out of control really, really quickly. So Sandy actually posted her version of this video a few months ago, and I tucked it away for this very time of year because I knew that I would need it. Now, I'm always looking for ways to improve. Personal development is something I love doing, even though it can be hard sometimes. And so this book was recommended to me actually last year because of this holiday stress that I run into. And I really loved it because the authors, who are sisters, talk about not only what burnout is, although probably everyone has some sort of working definition that's pretty close to what they talk about in here, but also what do you do about it? What causes it? And what's within and outside of your control? Now, this book is largely directed towards women. So just as a heads up, if you decide to read this, but I do think that a lot of the advice, the techniques, even the discussion, I think can be valuable for people of any gender. And just because statistically women are most likely to run into the challenges that are called out in this book, that doesn't mean those things are exclusive to women. So if you are not a woman, I hope that doesn't turn you away from this book just for that reason. Maybe there are a couple of sections that you skip, but overall, this is really valuable, I think, for anybody. And we'll get into more of that as we go through the questions. Question number 2 is, tell us about the TBR that is lurking over your shoulder. Well, if you've been around here a little while, you may know that I have been opening a new mysterious book every month this year. And these are the ones I haven't finished reading yet. So I'm a little behind on my stack. Oh, we've got November's, which I may as well open too. I'll open that in just a minute. So I'm 4 behind. Now, that said, this first one, The White Lioness by Henning Mankell, I am almost done. I'm so close. I'm gonna finish this in the next couple of days. It's happening. But these other 3, I've started Hood, but like when I say I've started, I've read literally 1 chapter. So, I've sort of started it, but haven't gotten any significant progress in it yet. And then I have 2 others that I have not started at all. And so I've been enjoying this project of the mysterious books, and I've been enjoying reading books that I've never heard of, or maybe just haven't been on my radar. Maybe authors that I've heard of but haven't read from. Like, I'm familiar with Pearl S. Buck. I've never read Pearl S. Buck. So, for example, so they're definitely, it's been really interesting and fun reading these books, but I'm behind. I'm gonna do a reading vlog probably next week, but it'll be posted after next week, but I'm gonna spend some significant time next week reading these books, and I'll vlog it and we'll have a good time with that, I hope. But since we're here, let's just add to the stack and open the November book real quick. All right. This is both a book and an author that I don't know. It is called 3 Hours in Paris by Kara, or possibly Cara Black. Apologies to the author if I mispronounced her first name. The tagline says, "One American riflewoman, one impossible spy mission, one shot at changing the course of history." This, it looks like it's going to be a thriller. If it's not a thriller, then it's really poor marketing. But let's see. So this is about a markswoman who's been recruited by British intelligence to drop into Paris with a dangerous assignment: assassinate the Fuhrer. Oh, is this World War II then? Oh, yep. I can read the top part. Yes, this is set in 1940. Okay, it looks like this is historical fiction. In June of 1940, when Paris fell to the Nazis, Hitler spent a total of 3 hours in the City of Light in Paris, abruptly leaving, never to return, to this day, no one knows why. So they're speculating, the author here is speculating what might have caused him to leave so quickly after arriving in Paris, and it looks like someone's trying to assassinate him, which, you know, legit. So that sounds really fun, actually. Yeah, this should be a good one. And I'm curious, because it's a thriller and because it seems to be set in a limited amount of time. I don't know if it's literally 3 hours for the entire novel, or if it's just referring to the 3 hours at the end. We'll see. I'll report back, but I will add this to the stack. Let me know if you've read this, or know anything about this book or the author. So it looks like she's written some other things as well. I don't read a lot of spy novels. I think I mentioned that in another video, so we'll see how this one goes. So that's what's lurking on my TBR. And if you've been here since the very beginning, or if you've caught up on my very early videos, which would probably make me cringe already because I've learned so much about making videos just this year, I mentioned at the beginning of the year that I was going to read some like really big books throughout the year, and that never really happened. So yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Never happened. Never happened. That's okay. 2025 is a new year, and I have learned about myself that setting a strict TBR is not the way for me to go. I will automatically gravitate to other books instead. So yeah, now I know. We learn new things about ourselves all the time. And honestly, one way to combat burnout and overwhelm is to reassess your expectations of yourself, to think about what you really actually need to do. Like, yes, you need to pay your bills so that they don't shut off your electricity or kick you out of your home, but you don't need to read the 6 books that you signed yourself up for. It'd be nice if you read them. That's great. It's something you're doing for yourself. If you're reading something else instead, or getting that downtime in another place, then that's okay. So that's something to bear in mind if you are facing overwhelm, whether you're in the midst of it or see it coming, or even if you just come out of it and you're thinking about how to prevent it in the future. That is one way to do it. What is actually on your list and what is actually necessary versus what can you let slide if it's just not as important. Question number 3, how is making videos or posting on the bookish internet shaping your reading experience? Well, honestly, when I came across a couple of BookTube channels a few years ago, I really hadn't been reading a lot for a while. When I was young, when I was in school, I read a lot, like pages and pages, chapters and chapters every single day. And I never really tracked what books I read, but I would not be surprised if I read 50 or 80 or 100 books in a year, just because I was reading so much. And then, you know, you get out of school, you get a job, you've got to pay bills, you have to work harder to get a social life going. And just the stressors of life, you get into routines that are different from what you're used to. So I dropped off of reading. I never stopped reading entirely. I always had a book going, but I didn't read nearly as much or nearly as often for quite a few years. And then around 2019-ish, 2018, 2019, I started journaling, which is something that I've really never done in my life, and or really had never done in my life before that. And part of the journal was I started writing down what books I was reading. And that first year, I think I read maybe 12 or 13 books. And I thought, I could read more. I want to read more. And as I was reflecting on the books that I was reading in my journal and just pulling out quotations that I really liked and that kind of thing, I really realized that I wanted to read more often. And so I started making more time for myself to read. And I started sifting through my book collection, because I've always had books in my home. I've always had books around. I love having physical books around me. It's just this part of an aesthetic that I just enjoy. And this is all for me. None of this is for the internet. It just was already here because I just love having bookshelves around. And so I sifted through my collection again and started buying books and started seeking out suggestions. And then probably around 2019, 2020-ish, it was before COVID, but it was like coming up on it, I think. I came across a YouTube channel about books. And then I found another one, then I found another one. And because I don't spend a lot of time on social media, I didn't really realize how much bookish content was out there. And I still don't spend a lot of time on social media. Like, you'll find me on YouTube, and that's basically it. But through those BookTube channels, I started hearing about books that I'd never heard of, both newer ones and older ones, authors that I'd never heard of, hearing people talk about books. And I was like, ooh, maybe I want to read that. Maybe I want to read that. So a lot of the books that I have now that I haven't read yet, or that I've read in the past couple of years, have been suggestions from BookTube. So that has definitely shaped my reading. It's also made me reach to other genres more and try other types of books more, because I have different inputs from the different people that I follow now, and from the people in my comments who suggest books. So thank you for that. But I have different people, I have different sources of books now from different people, from people who have different lives, people who have different backgrounds. And it's been really, really great. And of course, making videos about books that I'm reading has also made me pause and think a little bit more about what I'm reading in a more active way. Not that I've not thought about what I was reading, but a lot of the thought process has been subconscious, or just kind of as I'm going about my day, oh yeah, this thing, or as I'm reading the book, noticing some things. But I feel like I'm delving more into what I'm reading because I'm going to talk about it later, because I have a very specific place that I'm coming to tell all of you about the book. So I need to be able to speak somewhat intelligently on a topic. Question number 4 is, what do you think you can do differently so you're not so overwhelmed in the future? And again, that's where this book comes in. For me, the biggest thing is that I tend to think that my future self will have more energy, more time, more resources to do things than I do now. And I don't mean like 20 years from now, because yeah, I will have different resources, I will have different energy levels, I will have different determination. I'm not going to have any more energy in December than I have right now in November. Like, let's just be honest about that. But it's so easy for us to think of our future selves as having so much possibility. And I think in some ways that's a good human trait, to have that optimism about the future. It makes us reach for things and try to do things and challenge ourselves. But it can also get in your way when, as I did last year, you make a list of like 7 different things you're gonna bake for Christmas, and then forget conveniently that you have a full-time paid job that is not baking cookies for Christmas, and you've also got gift wrapping and purchasing and decorating and social events and. So that's a big thing, to be more realistic. The other thing that the Nagoski sisters talk about in this book is the cycle of stress. And you may have heard this elsewhere. I've heard this elsewhere as well, but I think they describe it really, really well in this book. Stress affects our brain the same way that a physical threat does. The chemicals that hit your brain that send signals to the rest of your body for a negative comment on social media or a sudden project deadline change or a realization that you forgot to do something that you committed to, that stress response is the same as if you are suddenly face to face with a hungry lion in the outdoors, in the wilderness somewhere. And that's so fascinating to me because what it does is it sends chemicals like adrenaline to your body so that you get ramped up physically as well as emotionally. And if you never expend that energy in a constructive way, it can build up over time. So getting an unpleasant email from a coworker might just ramp you up a little bit, not as much as perhaps feeling like you have to fight off a lion. But the thing is, if you are facing a physical threat, you do fight your way through it, potentially. If a lion attacks you, you're going to fight back. I hope that never happens to you, or if it does, that you are successful in saving yourself. But the point is that you would fight back and then hopefully survive. And that's that physical, the adrenaline that your brain has sent into your body has served a useful purpose and also been expended in that physical act of fighting for your life. But we don't have the same thing when we get a nasty email or a reminder that our racist grandparent is going to be at Thanksgiving dinner. All of those things ramp us up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So one thing that the Nagoski sisters suggest is that physical activity, and this is all backed by scientific studies, by the way, physical activity helps relieve that pressure. Now, one thing that I loved about this, because I hate exercising, I'll be really honest about that, and I'm sure at least some of you do too. They say physical activity doesn't necessarily have to be running around the neighborhood or hopping on your stationary bike and going for an hour and a half. It could also be something as simple as lying down, bed, couch, wherever, floor, whatever you've got, somewhere comfortable, tense all your muscles, and then let it all go. And do that a couple of times. And that by itself, of course, is not going to have the same like other physical benefits as full-blown exercise, but as far as stress relief, that can really help you decompress a bit, and work out some of those chemicals that are useful in the moment of dealing with a threat, but aren't useful 6 hours later when the threat is gone and you're trying to go to sleep or relax or whatever. So a little bit of advice here. I really love how in this book there's so much practical advice. Question number 5, do you have any projects that you really want to do but something is holding you back or preventing you from starting? Right now, not any major projects. I do have, not in my library, but in my home office, I have a shelf of nonfiction books that really needs attention. I spent some time earlier this year fixing up the library, and this is where all my fiction lives, but the nonfiction is in another room and it is kind of a mess. The shelves have sort of accumulated a bunch of different stuff. I think this might be a video just to clear this up. And then we're coming close to putting up the Christmas tree and doing some holiday decorations and baking, as I said, but at a much more reasonable level than I did last year. We're gonna keep an eye out for burnout. We're doing it. I also have accumulated a couple of Book Nook project like kits and Lego sets that I've been meaning to put together, and so that's also something. And then I have a crafting project that I don't want to talk about too much because it's for a gift and the recipient of it might see this, so let's keep that under wraps. But so I have a couple of started projects and then also some things that I just need to do it. As far as what's holding me back, I think it's just getting started. That first step, the perception that something is going to be difficult or time consuming, or take more than a few minutes is often limiting because we always have so much going on. And I say we, especially Americans with our, and I've talked on this channel before about our work ethic has to be go, 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 constantly productive. That's part of our culture and it's really hard to push away. Something that the Nagoskis talk about as well is that there are a lot of external factors that we cannot control in our culture that contribute to stress and overwhelm. And one of those things is this expectation that people be productive all the time, or that people, especially women, are expected to care for others, to be helpers, to be givers. And that can get exhausting, especially if you don't realize it's happening or don't think about it happening. And then also if you don't push back on that and set some boundaries for yourself. So when the to-do list stacks up, it can be really easy to say, well, I don't really have half an hour to dedicate to starting to put this book nook together. So I'm just gonna do it another day and focus on this other thing. And so that definitely, that kind of thing holds me back, and I don't think that's unusual. And then I think just the mental effort, sometimes you get to the end of a work day and your brain is just done. And so it's so much easier to watch, a TV show or play a video game than to do something like read your stack of mysterious books or do some sort of project that would also, and perhaps more, help calm you down and bring you into a more serene mental space. So that's a reminder for all of us, myself included. Question number 6, is there a book or a genre that brings you joy or takes you to a satisfying place? I kind of struggle with this. I don't do a lot of rereading. I reread occasionally, but I don't do a lot of rereading. So pointing to a single book is a bit of a challenge. As far as genre, I think mysteries definitely take me to a satisfying place, especially British mysteries. There's something about a British mystery that is just so satisfying to me. I think partly because I grew up watching Masterpiece Theater, Masterpiece Mystery on public television here in the US. So those British adaptations of British mystery novels. So that's definitely a source of that. I think there's a comforting space there. And this idea that, yes, there was a heinous crime perhaps, but someone is there trying to solve it. Someone is there trying to bring justice. It creates a little bubble of warmth and happiness. It's like a warm cup of tea, which is a great accompaniment to a British mystery. Question 7, how does FOMO, fear of missing out, play into your sense of overwhelm? Weirdly, I don't actually experience a lot of FOMO. I don't know why that is. It's more a fear of not being productive that I struggle with, or a fear of not getting the to-do list done, which is not a healthy thing either. Yeah, FOMO is not a big one for me. I don't mind missing out a lot of the time. Being involved in too many things feels overwhelming by itself to me, so yeah, FOMO is not the problem. That's one thing I don't have to worry about. Yay. Question number 8, is there anything you do specifically for BookTube or the bookish internet that you would drop without it? Kind of the obvious answer to me is making videos. I would not make videos if I didn't have somewhere for those videos to go, which I think is fair. I'm curious, and let me know if you know anyone who actually keeps a video journal, video diary that they don't post anywhere. I've seen it in movies or TV shows. It's always the scientist taking the log or whatever of their experiment, and it's just easier than having someone, I think, read a piece of paper. I think it's a little bit more dramatic or more palatable for the audience to watch the original person talking about it than hearing it secondhand in a film. But I'm curious whether people actually do that. I don't. It's something I would not do. That's really the main thing though. Having a BookTube channel does encourage me to read more. As I said before, to think about what I'm reading differently. But I still would do that, just in a slightly different way. Question number 9 is tag people who could use some time to chill. And I am actually not going to tag anyone specifically because I don't want to add something to someone's list, especially this time of year. If you have a channel and want to do this tag, please consider yourself tagged. You could say that I tagged you. Here it is. And please tag me in the video because I'd love to watch it. And again, if you want to add your answers to any or all of these questions in the comments, I'd love to hear it. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. I will definitely be back with my own thoughts on these, and hopefully we can read a few over the next week. If you are feeling any amount of overwhelm or burnout, I highly recommend this book. Again, it's Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Amelia Nagoski and Emily Nagoski. It is so good. You can see that I tabbed so many things on the top too. I've tabbed everywhere. I underlined a bunch of stuff. I loved this book. And with that, let me know in the comments your thoughts on overwhelm and how you're doing. And I will see you in the next one.